Hi, everybody. Whitney here. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast. Today, I have a very special episode for you all, a very wonderful, beautiful guest who has become a dear friend of mine, one that I met in very synchronistic, serendipitous circumstances that I'll have to tell you all about when I introduce her. So, Amy Faye is the owner of Visionary Tarot. Yes, that's right. This is going to be an episode all about tarot, which I haven't done yet with a guest. And Amy is a old school pro. Amy has been doing tarot since she was 11 years old. That's when she got her first deck. She is a practicing witch, which is why we got dressed up witchy. You'll see her too, but this is my attempt at witchiness. If you're watching this, if you're listening, just know that I'm dressed like a Halloween witch. She offers tarot. She's an oracle and tea leaf. She offers tarot, oracle, and tea leaf readings as forms of divinations. And she is knowledgeable with crystals and offers consultations. She is also gifted in mediumship. She reads full-time for Pentagram Shop in Salem, Massachusetts, and part-time for witchytip.com. Her newest endeavor is Kitchen Witchery by Amy Faye, where she crafts tonics, teas, and moon waters, to name a few. She is a witchy woman of many talents and also just a beautiful, wonderful soul that I'm so grateful to have as my friend. So I'd now like to welcome onto the show, Amy Faye.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
How are you, Whitney?
Hi.
How are you, friend?
Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here.
So, Amy, today
Yes.
we get to talk about one of our favorite topics for both of us, which is tarot.
Awesome.
Now, tarot has blossomed into a lot of different gifts for you, but it sounds like it was one of the inception points. It was one of the first things that led you on your witchy path. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is very accurate.
So why don't we start with that? I'm going to get comfy and
Yeah.
get ready for story time. Tell me, how did you come into tarot? Before that, were you already aware of it? Did you already feel drawn to witchiness? And what does witchiness mean to you? I think that's a good thing to clarify because obviously the term gets thrown around a lot. Like, oh my gosh, like they're a witch because they wear black or they like cats or because they do spells. But
Right.
what does that mean? And so but let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess I was very young when I realized, yeah, witchiness. That's a good broad term. I was definitely very young. I would know things before they happened. I would sense sometimes like a presence that I couldn't really identify what that was, but I would just feel more energies than an average kid. Definitely more introspective than an average kid would be. And then when I was 11, I went to Woodstock, Vermont with good friends on their family trip. They were kind enough to bring me. It was this cool little kind of hippied out town. And I went into a little kind of metaphysical store and I was just drawn to the tarot cards. And I bought my first deck, a Rider Waite, the old school Rider Waite, and a little guidebook. And that's when the journey really began. It was also the same summer that I went onto my pagan path. A friend's older sister was Wiccan, and she had signed my yearbook that summer, Blessed Be, with a little pentagram. And I was like, oh, what's this? I was very intrigued. I was very curious. And I bought a Scott Cunningham book, The Guide to Solitary Practitioning, and just kind of went in from there.
Now, that Scott Cunningham, is that about paganism? Is that about witchiness?
That in particular was a book for Wiccan solitary practitioning, but he has like multiple books. But yeah, it was, I mean, Wicca is the term for more of a specific path, but the pagan path is like the larger umbrella, if you will.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I was going to have you clarify because now we've had a few terms come up,
Yeah,
right? We have
absolutely.
witch, we have pagan, we have Wiccan.
Right.
And again, we've all heard it. And a lot of times, you see memes on Instagram and it kind of mocks it. And you're
Right.
like, what is a Wiccan? What is a
Right.
pagan? What is a witch? So yeah, how did you come into those and what did it look like? Well, like when you first explored paganism, what did that mean to you?
So for me, it was definitely being drawn to a nature-based religion. It was definitely being drawn to working with the elements, working with my own energy as well as a divine energy. So I feel like in some religions, you're worshiping a higher power, you're working with either whether it's monotheistic or polytheistic, but you're worshiping the higher power. But I feel like as a witch, you're also using your own powers within yourself, and kind of connecting your own energy with the divine energy. That's been my experience really with it, that it's a very interactive religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you can be pagan and not Wiccan. So there are different, again, paths under that. Even within being Wiccan or being a witch, there's so many different paths. I chose to seek initiation into a coven. So I was a solitary practitioner for through my teens, early 20s. I'm going to say I was mid to late 20s when I decided that I wanted a community. And I sought out being a formal initiate. So I practice a Welsh path, it's been amazing. Yeah.
Wow. So you say that you kind of played around with the elements and that brought you into paganism, and
Yeah.
you said that you did it just solo, kind of individually.
Right.
What were you doing? What does that mean? Like, so
Yeah.
were you doing, because again, people think of, were you doing spells? Were you just like doing more time in nature, like creating what are tinctures and such?
Yeah, I feel like for me, one of the first things I was really drawn into was actually candle magic, and I would carve like sigils and runes into candles. That just really kind of found me, and that was one of my first very basic forms of spell work, honestly,
Mhm.
was the carving of, picking a colored candle with that intention, right? If I wanted to manifest extra money, green; if I wanted to manifest love or passion, red,
Hmm.
something like that. And then I would carve, either a sigil or a rune or a symbol I was called to. That was one of the first really kind of basic spells in a way. Also working with the elements, I feel like just being more, I mean, right there, it's an element of fire, right? Um, some scrying came to me at a young age. By scrying, that's a term you can scry into water, into fire, into flame. And that's just basically meditating and staring into your chosen, space, and images appear to you. So that's something I was loving, scrying into water and seeing what images would appear. You can also scry into smoke or, cloud scry. We've all done that as a child, honestly. Sometimes people think the world of witchcraft can be so maybe intimidating, or I don't know, like there's our mundane lives, and then there's like this magical world. And the older I get, I'm like the two are so blended, because most of us have done so many witchy things without even realizing it, like staring up at the clouds and seeing, oh, a bright sunny day in your childhood. Oh, I see a dragon. Oh, I see a fish. You're scrying, you know.
Interesting. So that again, that makes me think, how do we define a witch? We think of it as a woman. Can a masculine be a witch, or is that a warlock? Like, does the name change with the
Most of the males that I know that I've practiced with or been acquainted with still consider themselves a witch.
okay.
Yeah, so typically in a lot of covens, and of course, a lot of information from the covens, it's oath bound, but there's also that's a lot that's available for general public. So, typically there is the high priestess and the high priest, representing, the duality of goddess and god. And
Hmm.
so yeah, typically the men that I know in the craft go under the term witch. I've heard some men refer to themselves as warlock, but that's been more online, not really people I know personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I guess it makes me think that when I think of a witch, or when I feel in my witchiness or in that element of, because there's that sense that I was likely into these things that I'm into now, because I'm also into tarot, as I speak often on the show about, but I did this in other lives, right? And that I
Definitely.
was probably more full-fledged about it.
Hmm.
And what it's always kind of been is this phrase that I heard once, which is mixing the magic with the medicine. So it's like, to me, there is a lot of magic involved in the witchcraft, because it's the idea that not everything that we can see is all there is, and it's
Right.
working with energy.
Right.
When I go out on a full moon, I feel witchy, because I feel like I'm receiving the energy. I feel like I can feel that the shift in the environment around me because of the moon. But
Absolutely.
even beyond the moon, it's like just different times of year, of day. My connection
Right.
with animals, my connection when I go out into nature feels witchy to me, in terms of breaking away from societal understandings of
Yes.
how you create and how you connect with the world,
Right.
and experience it in a more deeper way, and also realizing that you are magic and
Yeah.
you can create, you are a creator being and you can have some control over like what you want to see and experience.
Absolutely. It's 100%. And it's something just about, like you said, being in nature. For me in particular, the woods, I am an avid
Mm.
hiker. I try to hike almost every day, even if I can only go for a short one. And if it's a day where life is just super stressful, I will literally just take my shoes off and be barefoot and like ground into the earth. It's like we talk
Mhm.
about the elements, right? The element of earth. Or another time I was feeling really overwhelmed one day and I literally saw this beautiful, huge oak tree and I was just like hugging the tree to ground myself. And within about
Yeah.
30 seconds, grounded, good. So again, working with the elements can be something so simple brought into daily life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel my connection with animals feels sort of in the witchy element for me because there is, again, we have images of witches who are surrounded by animals that often
Mhm.
talk in movies that we see and such.
Right.
But the more that I've moved onto my spiritual path and just become more attuned to energies around me, I feel very connected with animals in terms of being, I feel like, I attract different animals at different times based on my time, my place. I feel like I have spirit animals that
Yeah.
guide me,
Right.
different signs and stuff like that from animals. So that also feels like an attunement of sort that happens when you start playing around with that.
Absolutely. And a lot of times I feel like there will be like an animal familiar
Mhm.
that, you know what I mean? Like we spoke about that
Yeah.
recently. And yeah. And I think for me, it was a black cat I had, my cat Midnight, who I had for
Hmm.
18 years. He was definitely, I mean, I've loved all my pets dearly that I've always had, but Midnight was certainly my familiar, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Without a doubt.
absolutely. And for those who aren't familiar, familiar with, I didn't even mean to do that, who aren't familiar with the term familiar, it's, well, as Amy said, it's sort of an animal that's been with you for many, many lifetimes. Or I don't know if you said that, but now I'm going to say it. And
Yeah.
because what was your cat's name?
Midnight.
Midnight is, I mean, you had them for a long time, 18 years,
Oh, yeah.
but you get a sense that like this isn't your first rodeo, right?
Right.
You're like, and again, with the witchiness, you're like, we've been doing this before. Like you've
Yes.
been here to assist me and protect me in
Right.
other lifetimes, and now you're here again.
Yes.
And I feel that my dog, Audrey, is my familiar. She's very protective.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
very attuned to me.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
always has a very keen eye on where I'm going. She
Mhm.
follows me all around. And I just have this sense that like she has been looking after me
Oh,
for
yeah.
many lifetimes.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
What how
Every
else
time
would
I've
you how
seen you
else would you
hike.
describe a familiar?
Well, for me, the other thing that was interesting, anytime I would be doing anything magical, writing in my grimoire even, that's if I tend to, craft my own spell or a recipe for something new for, my kitchen witchery. Something as basic as sitting writing in my grimoire, Midnight would always just be like right on my lap. He'd be drawn to whatever I was doing in that moment. If I was preparing to do a spell and setting up my herbs and candles and crystals and, or just simply changing my altar for the next season, he was just very present when I was doing anything magical.
Mhm.
Just very much a part of it, which was very interesting.
He was like, "Oh yeah, here's the good stuff. We're getting into it now." Well, because the other thing is that I mean, sometimes I feel like our familiar wasn't always just an animal, so it's almost like they're drawn towards joining you in the
Yes.
work that you're doing because they're
Yes.
like, "Do you remember last time I was a man and I was this and I was your partner and like, but now I'm your cat."
Right.
It's like
Right.
they don't forget. They still want to join in.
So true.
Is kind of the vibe I get,
Yes.
which might sound funny to people listening, but those who get it will probably understand that it's just this sense that, animals absolutely have souls and that they can be here to rejoin with us because they've done, and it's that like we've done this many many times with them, but they're not necessarily like well, I consider Audrey a soulmate of sorts, but they're more a protector,
Right.
right? Rather than like if you have a soulmate that you've done many lifetimes with, you've learned through like human connection interactions, physically, romantically, sexually, but your familiar is just like, no, I'm just trying to keep you out of trouble and be here to walk this path with you.
Yes.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then tell us more about being in a coven. So that again, like there's just so many connotations about witches and covens. And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of them are negative, right? A
Right.
witch is doing spells to hurt other people. A witch
Right.
tries to control things. A coven is doing dark magic.
Right.
But the truth is that it's really just working with alchemy. You're alchemizing. You're bringing in different elements. You're trying to create something for for the positive, right? Like you said, like bring in more love, bring in abundance, open yourself to new opportunities, remove blocks from your path. But when you work with a coven, what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So, again, a lot of it is oath bound. I can like go, a little further into this, but not super far because it is oath bound.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
like you're not supposed to, it's like a secret.
yeah, it's super
Okay.
sacred. Yeah, it's like literally you take an oath, so there's a lot
Ah,
of yeah, so you ask for your initiation and then you have a period of study. And it's there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of uh, I just want to say almost that like that word esoteric
yeah.
knowledge. And I mean, I feel like what I can say is that energy of practicing in a group, to me, it's just more powerful than solitary. That I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely speak to. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
for my personal path too, I could say, I can't speak for every witch and every coven, but for myself, I feel like magic is like would you do something harmful to someone in mundane life? No. So you're going to be this for me, no. So you're going to be the same way as a witch. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm like, I can't speak for everyone, but someone who
Right.
has maybe more of a different personality and a darkness to them, maybe they are going to take their craft darker. Do you know what I mean? Or they're,
Yeah.
but like for me, I just feel like it resonates who I am.
Yes.
So it's going to resonate love and goodness and again manifesting abundance. And I also personally always like to ask someone's permission before I do a spell for them, even if
Mhm.
it is for the good. Say a friend of mine is sick and I want to do a spell for health for them, some type of healing. Even though it's positive, I will still ask them permission because I'm still tampering with their free will in
Yeah.
a way. So that's just my own kind of personal how I've been taught and that aligns with me, even if it is for someone's good. Hey, can I do a protection on you? Or can I
Mm.
do, if they do want to draw in love into their life, or, oh, I have this idea, I'd love to do this for you, but would it be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of my own moral compass with it.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. And just like anything else, people are going to bring their personal integrity, their personal beliefs, their personal values to what they do. So
correct.
there's no way to have a blanket statement of this field is evil, it's bad, it's
Right,
all,
right,
one way.
right.
It's exactly what the person brings to it. And the same can
Yes,
be said for tarot. Like,
right,
of course, tarot falls under the umbrella of witchiness.
right,
But you have some tarot readers who will just try and almost just say whatever seems, alluring and enticing to the current because they want it to
right.
feel like a worthwhile reading. But
Yes.
for those of us who genuinely just work with the cards and begin to feel like it's giving us messages and we're
Right.
picking up on energy, that's all we're giving back to them is what we're picking up on.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think with tarot also, people will say, oh, is this a good or a bad card? And I'm like, I don't really like to identify any of the cards as good or bad. Like the same with magic and nature, and everyone has the shadow and the light within them.
Hmm.
And it's like, yes, there are cards that lean toward indicating, okay, there's a problem here, there's an issue here, there's going to be some upheaval. But to me, I look at it as like, it's an opportunity to address how you're going to navigate that in life. Because I feel
Yeah.
like no matter how hard we try, we could do all the right things in life and still calamity is going to happen. And so it's like we
Yeah.
can't avoid anything negative or unpleasant, but how can we transmutate that energy? And that's what I think tarot gives us that opportunity to look at like, all right, this path isn't working for me. So maybe the cards are having that negative connotation, but then you could look at them as a positive blessing that it could give you the chance to course correct.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of, and we'll get more into tarot stuff, but fives in tarot are all about change and challenges to
Mhm.
me. But it's without that, where would you be? If
Right.
you never had a challenge in your life would be like this. You
Right.
literally up level when you have a five type experience. So
Right.
fives are when, like five of swords is when you feel like a lot of conflict and you're or tension with somebody else, and it's like mental stress of like, what do I do? And I can't figure out my feelings around this or how to think about this.
Right.
But it's what allows you to have a breakthrough to be like, okay, this isn't working. How do I resolve it? Right. Or the 5 of Cups is when you're in a place of grief or regret and loss. Well, grief and loss is a piece of our heart. It's a meaning. It's one of the most meaningful things that happens in life. It shows us how much we love.
Right.
So is it pleasant? Do we want to see it? Not always, but it shows you where you're going to have growth. To me, change or challenge is growth. Without it, we would not grow.
Right.
It's just impossible. If everything was perfect.
Right.
So I believe the same thing. You know, people don't like to see the tower, which for those who don't know, the tower in tarot is basically sudden, shocking change, which can be in the form of something not so desirable, like a sudden loss of a job or a relationship or something like that. However, it's trying to help you, like you said, course correct.
Right.
You're on a path that's not leading to where you've declared to the universe you want to go.
Right.
So if you didn't have some kind of intervention, you would have just kept going in a direction that wasn't serving you. So it's a big thank you, really. It's like, thank goodness.
Right.
And you know, for me, every tower moment I've had, I look back and I'm like, that was rough, but I'm so thankful, because what if I had kept in that relationship or kept going in that direction? It wouldn't have been great.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. People always fear the tower. And I'm like, no, lean into
Bring
it. Bring it. Lean into it.
The tower.
You need sometimes that destruction energy to recreate. Because again, if everything just stayed the status quo and just kind of flatline, where is the growth? Where is the change? Where is, any type of self-improvement or moving closer toward enlightenment? Yeah, I totally agree.
But the other thing though about the tower is sometimes it can just straight up be actually a fantastic thing, but just shocking, right?
Yes.
Like to me, when I got the guidance to move out of my studio and hit the road and become a nomad, that was a shocking change. It was a tower moment. Everything I knew changed, but it was exciting. It was exhilarating, right?
Yeah.
Or it's the same thing where, one time I had a job and out of nowhere, I just started this job. I was there for a few months and I was making plans to stay there. And somebody called me with a way better offer for a new job. And I changed everything.
Right.
So that's a tower moment, but it's an up leveling. It's just challenging because change can be hard to people, right? You thought you were in one direction. Okay, now it's changing, but man, this is better.
Right. It's true. I feel like the average person, we become creatures of habit, and which is, I think, a normal human being thing to do. And like, people get bummed out if like the supermarket's out of their favorite brand of something and they're like, oh, to buy a different bread today, so like when a tower moment happens of, like you said, like losing a job, a relationship, a home, it's just like sends people sometimes reeling, because we're not always great with change as human beings. We do have those creature comforts and those routines and rituals which we can tend to thrive on, but they can also really keep us stuck too.
Yeah,
which is like you got to shake up that stagnant.
And the universe does not want us to be stagnant, because life is synonymous with change, with growth. So we're meant to always be growing. So if we're in a pattern, the universe is going to look at us and say, oh, I need to,
especially if it's a negative pattern or just, again, stagnant. If we're not really growing, if we're not helping ourselves, helping others, living our truest purpose, it shakes it up for us.
Shakes it up. Yeah. And speaking of tower moments, I have to say, because I feel like that ties in a little bit to how I met you.
Yes.
Because I had a disappointment right before I met you. I had taken off on this journey that led me to upstate New York. I was living in Bend, Oregon last year, and it was where I wanted to stay. I thought that it was my place for a while. I was going to build roots. And then I got a direct message that said, if you stay here, you'll be forced out, which is basically a tower moment, right? It will force you out. So I avoided the tower moment. I got on the road. I did a road trip out here. And as I got closer to winter, I left in September and had a beautiful, amazing trip. And then it was after Thanksgiving. And so I kind of told the universe, I was like, listen, it's going to be winter. And I was told to go to New York, but I keep looking at Airbnbs and stuff and nothing really fits. And I don't feel called. So I need your help. Like, I need you to show me where to go. And out of nowhere, this guy whose Airbnb I'd stayed at in Maine reached out and said, hey, my tenant in upstate New York at my cabin is leaving next week. It's going to be available. Do you want it? And I said, yeah, totally. So I was so excited. I was like, this is a beautiful opportunity. It's going to be perfect. So I went to this cabin, and it was rustic, it was a little difficult, but I was really grateful for it. Right. But then after a few weeks, everything fell apart for me. Between the owner and my connection didn't feel good to me. just some elements about the cabin. I felt like I didn't feel good there. And so I left and I was frustrated. I was like, this was supposed to be a gift from the universe and it got taken away. And so I left and bounced around and found other places. And a few weeks later, I went back to the cabin because I had ordered something that was supposed to be delivered there. And I knock on the door, and who should answer but this beautiful creature right here? So, because of that tower, I went out and you went in, which you had your own experience since then. But at that time,
Right.
that was a beautiful place for you to be with your
Yes.
family.
Yes.
It worked for you, it kept you in a place that you needed to be, and we met each other.
Yes.
So, my point is, my tarot moment led to you moving in, me finding you, and us now having tower moment since then, but then coming together and
Yes.
being
Yes.
friends and living a beautiful life.
Yes.
So,
Very true.
just a
And
message to everybody that don't also forget that even if the tower moment feels not great at all, you don't realize what it made room for, right? Like we don't see everything.
Right.
And this brings us more into the idea of tarot, is that what I love about tarot is that it helps you see elements that maybe you're totally not looking at. I always call it like your blind spots.
Right.
And as a reader, I feel that that's the gift,
Right.
right? You can say like, hey, and it's funny because we also want to talk about this. It's similar because I'm a therapist. It's similar to doing therapy, where as a third party, you have an objective look at somebody, and you can, as they're telling you the story of their life, you say, there's this pattern, and do you not realize you're doing this? And they'll say, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. And the same thing happens with tarot.
Very much so. Like it's wild. And to share the story I had shared with you earlier, I did an event about 3 years ago, and a woman sat down and I pulled her spread and we're going through everything. And I'm like, you really need to get sober and fast. Like you're literally killing yourself. And she started crying, and she didn't deny anything. She was just like, a lot came up. And then I saw her I want to say 2.5 to 3 years later, and she was like, that reading made me get sober, and I've been sober since then. And like the next week, she got sober. Yeah, so it's like you don't realize the impact. People think maybe it can be like just for novelty, right? And
Yeah.
it's so much deeper than that. It's such a sacred practice. It's such a sacred art and gift, honestly. And yeah, people, they'll sit there and be like, I'm telling you things I don't even necessarily tell my husband, my friend, my therapist.
Yeah.
And they're confiding in us. It's such a powerful trust
Yeah.
that I'm honored, really
It is an
honored.
honor. And it does say something about tarot where, because I have the same thing where I'll have people reach out to me who are listeners of my show, which I hope more people will reach out through Instagram. I love hearing from you. And I offer a card reading, and, we'll just have a general exchange. Like, I love your show. And I've been, it's been really helpful. And then I'll ask, okay, well, I'd love to pull a card for you. Do you have any questions? And it's like their access to their soul, their heart opens. Like suddenly they're sharing something with me that's very dear to them, that's very sensitive to them.
Right.
Like, and it's like a genuine ask, like, I feel so lost in this and I don't know if I'm on the right path. And it's so different from our conversation before. So there's
Right.
something about tarot, because even that doesn't always happen in therapy. In therapy,
Right.
there's often people have their guard up,
Right.
but there's something about, and to me, I mean, most of the people who reach out are women.
Yeah.
It's like they move more into their, whether you want to call it witchy or intuitive, just divine feminine mode, where they're saying like, I know there's more than just like this, what I present and all these things.
Right.
Like there's something within me that just feels this type of way. And they seem to be more open to discussing that when it comes to divinations, which tarot is a divination.
Absolutely. I agree. It unlocks something in us. And like you said, I think it connects us closer to our divine feminine, that goddess energy. And there's also something about, spirit coming through, like spirit guiding them. It's like, I'm not sitting there telling my friend, oh, this is what you need to do, or this is your problem. It's literally coming messages from spirit, from a higher being than just us. So I think there's an element of that too, that it's not coming from my mouth per se. I'm just the vessel, but it's actually coming from above. And I think that that's huge for people too.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can sense it, they can feel it.
Right.
And that's actually where I started calling myself an intuitive therapist in recent years, because I will say that, when I saw a therapist and my experiences is sometimes it does feel a little too formal and buttoned up.
Mhm.
It can feel harder to be vulnerable and to not feel judged when you feel
Right.
like your therapist is very by the book and just looking to kind of pinpoint your, you know, neuroses or challenges or diagnoses.
Right.
But when you're an intuitive therapist, which obviously I am because I'm intuitive, it's very much as you just said, where yes, I'm offering something, but it's not because I'm in my intellectual brain saying
Right.
this is what I see being the problem or an issue. There's part of that, right? Like I said, you're connecting dots
Right.
when you are hearing someone's story.
Right.
And as a therapist, you can say, I see this pattern. Do you see it? But then the intuitive messages come through. And that's what I started noticing even before I started doing tarot. And I don't think that's coincidence that after I became a therapist, tarot came into my life
Right.
because I was using that guidance that was beyond me and it would just come through me. And people would say, they would say, wow, I feel so at peace after I meet with you. I feel very at ease with myself. I feel
Right.
much more comfortable. And that's often the effect when you meet with somebody who's a bit of a channel because that those messages from the spirit realm, they remind us that this isn't all there is. And it is very assuring because the message from the spirit realm knows that everything is always okay at all times,
Yes.
that we are well, that we are fine.
Yes. I agree. I totally agree.
So
Yeah.
I'd like you to share, Amy, because I'm curious what came first. I mean, you got your first deck at 11, but you
Yeah.
said that you heard and received messages, you saw apparitions of sorts to some degree before that. What do you feel most connected with? Are you psychic? Are you a medium, a tarot reader? I know they all kind of go together, but I just would love you to share what was most prominent and what's still most prominent to this day for you.
That's a great question. I don't know if there's actually one that would be most prominent, but yeah, definitely from a very young age, I wouldn't actually see a physical apparition, but and I know different mediums work differently. I don't typically see an actual like apparition or person. I'll feel their energy more. They'll also kind of show me places more, a very specific setting. Like recently I had this, it was a grandmother coming through for someone, and it was a very 1970s kitchen. It was bright yellow and I could see every little knickknack and every little detail, and she was always in her kitchen. She loved to be there, and that's like one example. Sometimes people have brought me, I'm in the woods, I'm a hunter, so they'll typically bring me to like their favorite place, and then I'll get energy hits of things about them. Um, but I feel like from a very young age, I would just be more aware of like a presence, so to speak. So it was more a feeling than a sight at that point. Um, so I feel like I feel like the hardest, but also most fulfilling aspect is the mediumship. It can take a lot energetically out of me, but it's the most fulfilling because I'm giving people so much comfort.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's not closure, right? People die suddenly and there are things left unsaid. Or even if someone is sick, maybe the person couldn't find their voice to say what they really wanted to say. So there's a lot of times when I feel like more closure is needed. Um, or just also people needing to hear how loved they were, as we were speaking about
Mm.
earlier. People really need that validation. Like they know on some level, of course, my parents loved me, of course, but they're also in that mundane space of like, are they disappointed I am, I don't know, reading tarot instead of being a doctor? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or are they like, and I feel like when people pass away, in my experience, they don't hold on to those same values of the earthly. It just goes, it all
Oh,
means nothing. They
yeah.
just love you and they just want you to know they feel a lot of that's typically a lot of the messages I will get is love, pride, gratitude all the time when people care for their loved ones on their deathbed. 99.9% of the time messages will come through. I'm like, oh wow, they're showing me you were literally with them when they took their last breath. And they show me who is the caretaker, and that gratitude, that's another message they always want to convey. But again, it does take a lot out of me to do the mediumship. It's a
Mhm.
different energy than tarot. It's not negative, it's just heavy, especially
Yeah.
when someone takes their own life or dies in a violent way. It can be, I've never felt scared, but it can feel heavy.
Right.
That could be powerful. I feel like tarot, it's a bit different, the energy. But I love both equally for sure. And it definitely, tarot just helps, it really can help people be guided on their path. And I have clients that I work with on a weekly and a monthly basis, right? It's like we tend to, I feel like it depends on, I've done festivals and fairs, and maybe I'm seeing that person just one time and they're at a fair and they want a reading. But you know what? They take my card, and sometimes 2 years later, they will send me a message and be like, "Hey, can you do a reading?" I'm like, "Of course." And then, you know, for the businesses I work for, I've had clients that have become, weekly or monthly over the years, and it's really progressing them on their journey. It's a continued practice for them. It's become a part of their life, like going to actual therapy or like going to the gym. It's another form of self-care for a lot of people, which is amazing. I love that part of my job is to help people. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Now let's get into tarot more fully, shall we? Since
Yes.
we're both readers, and I will say I'm nowhere near the caliber of Amy, because Amy, you've been doing it for most of your life. And I find with tarot, I mean, it really is this relationship you build with the cards and your thorough understanding of them, but also, as a medium, as a channel, you start to hear things. And you were saying before, Amy, we started, is that at this point, you almost don't even need the cards, right? You
Correct.
kind of just already know what wants to come through for the person.
100%.
But it's still kind of fun, because what I like about tarot is that it takes away, I think it gives people a better ability to take you out of the equation, right? Like when you're just channeling for someone, they still see you like sharing this, but when you're describing the cards, it can feel like, okay, I can look at the cards too. Clients can get their interpretation of the cards. So it's
Right.
a fun kind of shared experience with tarot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I still always love using the deck to kind of just open the channel, to open that connection. Yeah,
Yeah.
no matter what. And like for a lot of people as well, it's like maybe, I'm so used to reading, but for them, they might not get a reading all the time. So they want that experience too, and they want to learn about the cards and, the archetypes and the different suits and the court cards.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, I know that, I mean, might not be the case, but do you have a favorite card in the deck? I know I also agree there's no, bad or good cards. They just are different experiences, different
Right.
archetypes, different energies. But do you have certain cards or a card that you've always been? Because I do find that there's
Yeah.
some that I totally relate to, and other of them always kind of like, oh, there it is again. I never know how to quite translate this, or.
Yeah, no, that feels solid. I would say definitely my very favorite card, the Empress.
Oh,
And yeah,
yes.
the first day we met, you noticed my Empress tattoo.
Can you show for
Of
people
course,
watching? There it is. Look at that beauty.
courtesy of Josh at Painted Souls in Montclair, New Jersey. Little shout out there, well deserved. But yeah, that's definitely my favorite card. I would say I identify as the Empress. Very much so a card of just that very nurturing, motherly,
Divine feminine.
divine feminine, ultimate divine feminine.
But like earth, and also like earth angel, mother earth, mother nature. But yeah, just like so nurturing and loving and caring.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Empress is beautiful.
So she's my favorite. Like I just, yeah, I feel the most connected with her. And then my birth cards are the Hierophant and Temperance.
Now,
Um
birth cards. So your birthday is in April, correct? You're in
April, correct.
Aries.
Yes, I'm in Aries. And so it's very easy to actually, if you just, go into your search engine and put in what are my two birth cards, and you put in your just month, day, and year, you can find out your birth cards. And
So yours is
yeah,
Temperance and
the Hierophant. Yeah.
oh,
Yes. So those are my two birth cards. And I do feel connected with those as well. The combined meaning, it's just kind of leadership, trying to better your community. Um, in some ways, like following traditional value system, which I feel like ties in with following that traditional coven path.
mm,
It is very tradition based. It is very um, I don't know really the word I'm trying to think of, but it's yeah, more of a traditional system. Uh, my solo practicing is more maybe sometimes eclectic. But I thrive on that really traditionally based system.
yeah.
So I think that that ties in for the Hierophant for me. And then Temperance, I feel like, that there's a lot of aspects to that card. Again, it's that angelic energy, the angel
Yeah.
pouring from the one cup into the other.
Right.
And I feel like there's just like a lot of balance and patience within temperance. And it's just, to me, it's a beautiful card.
Yeah.
So I also identify with my birth cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Temperance is the one that I have the most trouble feeling anything about. And I think it's probably because I'm not a very temperate person. So like balance and evenness and all of that is, I'm like, let's go for it. Let's do this. I think I remember being told, I don't know my other one, but one of my birth cards is the strength card. So it's like, let's
Oh,
show what we're made of. But
yeah.
the other part though is that the thing I love about the strength card in tarot is the traditional one, which I got out the traditional deck. It shows a woman opening a lion's mouth, but to remove a stick, but you can't open a lion's mouth unless you're being a little gentle. So
Right.
yes, it's strength, and to me, that's divine feminine strength. Because
Right.
to me, the divine feminine is powerful yet gentle. It's like, and then, of course, water is associated with the feminine. Well, water can be the most powerful thing there is,
Right.
but it also can just very gently move mountains and shift the earth,
Right.
right?
Yeah, it's an interesting element. It's so true. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, temperance is beautiful, but it's one of those that I just can never quite wrap my head around. When I get it, I never know what to think. Obviously, I think like, okay, you need to relax, like you need to look at both sides of something. That
Yeah.
actually happened to me recently. I was kind of worked up about a certain situation, and I tend to be a little bit too black or white, like, okay, well, I'm done with this, or this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And I got temperance, and it reminded me like, hey, why don't you take a breath and see how you feel when you kind of look at things as a
Right.
whole, as a bigger picture.
Right.
Take your emotions out a little, take a
Right.
little nap, maybe like just rest a little,
Right.
and then revisit it and realize that maybe it's not all one thing or another.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
temperance, right?
very much, oh, very much so. It's always like whenever I get that, if I have a decision I'm making, or like you said, an obstacle or a situation like that is a little challenging, I'll be like, okay, I'm not seeing the other person's point of view or perspective enough in this. Or like you said, the bigger picture. And
Yeah.
what could be, to me, another word coming off of that card is compromise.
Mm.
Oftentimes there's like a middle ground.
This is the temperance card. I like, but yeah, she is very angelic, huh?
Right.
She's beautiful. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the Hierophant, which you spoke of. So these are your two cards, right?
Hmm.
Look, here they are.
Yep.
So this is the Rider-Waite Tarot. And Amy, what's your understanding about like what do these cards represent to you? Because yes, they're the standard ones, but for you, do they feel like your go-tos, or do you have a different decks that more so align with your idea of the tarot?
I feel like I'll always, I mean, the Rider Waite has been part of my life for 31 years.
Was that your first
So,
deck?
yeah, that was my first
Oh,
deck.
okay.
So for 31 years that's been, and I got the little miniature one for my son when he was a year old. He's now 4. He pulls his card of the day, which is, he's incredibly intuitive, which is amazing. So,
Look out for
uh,
your little ones. They're
right.
gonna be
Right. But so, and that was, I purchased it for, I think it was his first, yeah, it was his first Yule, which is the Wiccan equivalent of, the winter holiday. Um so we were actually in a shop together and he picked it up and wanted it, and I'm like, okay. Um Even well, I'm sorry, he was 18 months. He was about 18 months. But yeah, he was old enough to like pick it up and be really drawn to it. And I'm like, here we go. But yeah, so the Rider Waite is definitely near and dear and always will be.
This
But
is what the cover looks like. And this has been around since the 70s or even earlier. Just this deck. I mean, tarot has been around since the 1400s, the
yes,
earliest
yes, early as,
records of it.
yes, exactly. I know it's been a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I'm not positive on that. I think you're right on that. Possibly that version might be 70s, I
Yeah,
think.
sometime
Yeah.
around then. But the fun thing about tarot, and as I talk about this a lot in the show, is that it's always the same cards, but as long as you use the same 78 cards, which
Right.
are how many cards are in a deck,
Right.
you can paint it up, switch it up however you want, but you
Yes.
gotta stick. So it's a little bit tradition. It's like tradition mixed with
Right.
creativity, but
Yes.
you keep it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's an oracle deck, right? Because an
Right.
oracle deck, you can freaking do whatever the heck
Anything
you
you
want.
want. Right. It's so true.
But tarot, like it's some of that by the book standard stuff.
Yeah,
And I'm
there's
into
always your
that stuff.
22 major arcana, and
Right.
then the 56 minor arcana. So yeah, it's always broken into that system. And how I explain the difference really for that, I feel like the major arcana, it's like, okay, the universe has spoken on this. This is already set in stone for your path. Whereas the minors are more mile markers,
Twist. I say like the twists
twists
and
and
turns of
turns.
life, the little things.
Right.
Whoa. Okay, say that again. I've never heard that said. This is already set in stone. Like this is already happening, kind of.
And I feel like for me, this is just how I feel. The major
Yeah.
arcana are very much like predestined feeling to me, where the wheels
Interesting.
are in motion and there has to be drastic action to stop it. Like that's how I feel about them. Like,
Because
not
they're
that it,
big.
they're
They're big.
big,
They're major. They're
they're
big
major,
energies.
right?
Yeah.
And so to me, they feel very much like this is happening again, unless there's some type of major intervention or major quick kind of course correction.
Right.
But to me, they feel very like, whereas the minor feel more like, yeah, like twists and
Yeah. Like
turns.
this could be the right turn you take, or if you go this way, you might encounter this.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
So I've done it before, but I'd love to hear you describe the minor arcanas in terms of, because they're like a deck of cards, but how do you explain to people when they're like, what are these different suits? What do they mean?
Yeah, so the four suits, you have a suit that corresponds with each element. So cups are our emotions, swords are the intellect, our mind, wands are that inner fire within us, and they connect with air. And then we have pentacles, which connect with earth, and they are the more material realm, finance, career, also our home and our hearth as well.
Mhm.
Sometimes people only think pentacles as like money and materialism, but it is also that home and hearth energy as
Yeah.
well.
I see it as
Yeah.
like home, work, all
Right.
that
Yeah.
finances,
Right.
relationship. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I see it as all those things.
Absolutely.
And then what about how each suit is broken up?
Yes. So then everything runs ace through 10 to start with. So the aces are that beginning energy, and then the 10 is the completion of the cycle. And then, as we had mentioned before, the fives are that halfway point. I know they're always
Where
interesting
you're
to
like,
close it.
oh, push through it.
Right. And then we have the court cards, which is one of our
Good old
favorite
court cards.
little court cards, one of our personal favorites in our friendship to talk about the court
Yes.
cards.
Yeah.
So,
And what are they?
they are the page, the knight, the queen, and the king, and also running in each suit. So,
So it's kind of fun because as a tarot reader, and it's fun to be able to do this, but there's tarot talk, right? There's a tarot language, just like anything, right? Like if you're a musician, you compare two musicians together and they're still talking about chords and beats, and anybody else would be like, what the heck are
like,
they talking
what?
about? Yeah.
Right.
But with tarot, you're like, oh my gosh, I had a total tower moment. And then, this situation, I felt like the hangman because I couldn't decide. And people would be like, what in the world are you talking about? But so it's fun when you have lovely friends that you can talk tarot with. So Amy and I have been, having lots of girl time together, which has been wonderful. We're both currently single and exploring the life of being beautiful, single, witchy women.
Absolutely.
And
Amazing.
we were talking about how, because so the major arcanas are bigger archetypes, but the court cards are still archetypes of people that you encounter in your life. And that's what I like about the minor arcanas court cards is it can say like, okay, like for instance, if you get a knight, to me, that's somebody who's coming in with something, right? Because the knights are about movement.
Right.
I always, and tell me your take on this, but when I think
Yeah.
of the court cards, the pages I think is like offering the little seed of something. They're like,
Right.
hey, I'm just a little page. I'm childlike. I'm kind of a new, fresh, excited energy. But I don't
Absolutely.
really know much about this. They're like a squire, right? To the
Yes.
knight. They're there to serve the knight. So
Right.
they hand the knight his sword, the seed, what have you.
Yeah.
And then the knight has more knowledge and says, oh, I understand this. I'm going to move with it. I want to do something with it. I'm taking
I'm
this
gonna
seed.
go with it and run with it.
Yeah. And then he takes it to the queen who says, wow, I see your vision. I see what you're giving me. I'm going to start. To me, the queen is the orchestrator. She's in, that's why it's very feminine because it's like,
Yes.
I know how to make things happen. I know how to get shit done. I know how to orchestrate things to make them work efficiently and
Yes.
effectively. And then the king is the one that steps in once all the work is done and says, all right, I can rule over this with but ideally a king is noble and of integrity and of
Right.
good consciousness and cares about his
Right.
people. So
Right.
that's my take. What is that aligned with you? How you think of because every reader thinks of their cards a bit differently, right?
Oh, definitely. I think that's very, very accurate for sure. Like, I agree. I think, yeah, the queen and the king both have that maturity and that who we want to aspire to be like, right? So we want to
Yeah.
aspire toward, you know, the last major arcana card, the world coming up. It's
Mhm.
like that completion of journey,
Completion,
right?
everything, it all
So
came
yeah,
together.
like it starts with the Fool, card 0, the Fool.
Yes.
There we go.
This guy, we love him because
Right.
he's like, I'm stepping out. I'm not even looking down. I'm stepping off a cliff. I'm not worried because I have trust.
Yeah.
The fool knows the value of taking a risk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say that uh, fortune favors the bold,
Yeah.
right? And take a
Yes.
leap and the net shall appear. All those remind me of
Right.
the fool because he's just like, I
Absolutely.
don't give a fuck. I know I'm on my way.
I'm gonna go for it, right? And so he's
Yeah.
starting the journey, and then we have, yeah, the world.
I don't
Let's
think
see.
I found the world in
Okay.
here yet, but keep going.
Yeah, we have the world as that completion. So I feel like the same thing with the court cards. The queen and king energy are more of that mature archetype of someone that really knows themselves. They know how to be a good partner. So yeah, bringing us back into the world of, meeting different people.
Yes.
Randomly we were speaking about very immature men, and
Yeah.
we've deemed them a
A
page.
page. Yeah, it was funny because I was telling Amy about someone that I was kind of talking to, and immediately, well, because you're very attuned, right? So I was telling her about I was dating like a couple guys at once, just different guys that come around at the same time. It was fury of energy. You might call it the Eight of Wands, right? So the
Oh,
Eight of
yes.
Wands in tarot is like a bunch of things happening all at
Fast and
once.
Furious.
Fast and furious, and like what the heck? And I had a moment like that when I moved here to this new spot where I am for the past few months with suitors.
Oh, yes.
And pages are suitors, knights are suitors, but they're not always the ones we're looking for. Kings are also, they can be suitors if they're available. Kings can sometimes be established,
Right.
but it's different energies. Now, how would you? So I'll just say that I was describing one guy, and immediately you're like, he's a page. He has an immature, obnoxious energy. He's a page. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's such a page. And then I was like, damn, I think I've only mostly dated pages. I've dated some knights, never
Right.
a king. He's coming though. That's why you wait for your king, ladies.
Both of our kings are coming.
Yeah, our
Yes.
kings are on their way.
They're on their way.
Yeah, totally. So, but how would you like describe a page versus a knight versus a king in your romantic journey, in your experience with suitors? Like when have you felt the knight vibe, the page vibe?
Well, that's a really good question. I
Here's
guess
what we're talking about. Okay, sorry.
I guess at this point, I feel like obviously anyone who's dated has experienced all the kind of archetypes at some point, but I will say where I am in my journey now, um, my boundaries have become really strong. My self-worth has become really strong. I know my value, and I don't mean to sound cocky in saying that. It's been a journey, and it's been a lot of work, a lot of shadow work, and a lot of,
And a lot of tower moments.
a lot of tower moments.
You got to get those freaking
Yes.
obnoxious, challenging tower moments, but it really does solidify where you're like, I am done.
Right.
And I know so well
Right.
what I deserve and
Right.
my worth and value that I don't fuck with
Right.
pages.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I won't even like entertain like any type of page energy. Like the moment that there's like the hint of page energy, I'm just like, no. Just like only kings need apply. Yeah. And
Yes.
yeah, it's kind of where I'm at in my journey and like just forward momentum. Yeah, it's my younger
Beautiful.
self was more willing to be like, oh, I can help the page. I can help the
Yeah,
knight.
they're in need.
They're in need, and I
Yeah.
can like, as a healer, I think as healing energetic healing women, again, I'm like this empress energy. So a lot of wounded men can be drawn to that energy and like, but that's not
Our
our
responsibility
responsibility.
or always a good use of our time. What do you
Exactly.
think of the Knight of Cups? Because the cups is all about emotions. And the Knight of Cups, I've heard it be called the knight in shining armor. Are you into that? Do you feel like you've met one? Do you feel like you'd entertain it, be open to it?
My ultimate partner is King of Cups.
Oh, the King of Cups. So
Yeah.
why would you want a knight?
Right. But I feel like the knight has good energy. Like out of all the knights, I feel like Knight of Wands or even King of Wands, I feel like this player energy.
Player energy.
Like great sexual chemistry, but player energy.
Right. And
Yeah.
then the Knight of Pentacles might be a little boring.
little boring. He's like a little too practical. He's like at home looking at his stocks and bonds instead of like, let's go
Courting
sleep in
you.
the woods for the night. And
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny because another guy that I was telling Amy about, she immediately looked at me and she's like, he's boring. And I was like, oh my God, he's so boring. I hadn't realized. I was like, why am I not that into him? He was boring. And I pulled a card for him because I pull cards for every guy that I can help with because that's what we do. Do you do that?
Oh, of course. I'm like, oh, of course.
We're like trying to get a gauge on them. But I pulled the Knight of Pentacles for him.
Right.
And that made sense because he was an established guy. He had a lot of things going for him. He was very well respected in his field, but he was boring. I can't do that.
No. Same.
Oh my gosh.
The pentacles are not for me.
Yeah, well, really? I don't know. I feel like my person is actually a pentacle because I am an earth sign. I'm Virgo. So something about that, as much as I love excitement and fun, like that tried and true to me takes the cake.
Okay.
So so you said cups.
I'm very cups.
You like the rolling waves of emotion and feels and
that raw emotion and that vulnerability and that sensitivity, and just so romantic. Just like I love. Like my friend Joanne that I work for Witchy Tips. She's also a dear friend, and she was like, you with your love vibes, and you're like just recently she's like, oh my God, like, because it's just like if it's not potential soulmate energy, like I'm not even like willing to entertain that either. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
I like need that fairy tale. I need that.
Okay.
Do
And
know
you
what I mean?
deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But very cups, very emotional. Yeah.
Very cups. So don't remember, everybody has their own flavor. And maybe that's something everybody could play around with is what's a need for me in love? Is it this deep emotional connection? Is it loyalty and trust between us and consistency, stability? Is it excitement and, being spontaneous? Or is it someone who's very practical?
Right.
Thinking of the sword. I'm like, I don't know who loves a king of swords, but somebody does. Well, they're also air signs. So, I mean, someone who's more expansively thinking, but more in those realms rather than.
I misspoke earlier. I said swords are air. Or I'm sorry, swords are I flip-flopped wands and swords when I misspoke earlier.
Oh, did you?
When I was saying the elements. Yeah, it just hit me now.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I thought you said
I literally just, I think I did.
I think you said that wands are fire.
Right. Okay, good. I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, wait, did I flip-flop that in my head?
Well, now people know that the wands represent fire
and the swords
are
air. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, there's a lid for every pot. So I mean, there's definitely someone that wants that very pragmatic, practical energy. It's not necessarily a negative. It's just
not for everybody.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's intellectual. Like some people get a huge hard on for just a really fucking smart person.
Right.
Someone like very intelligent. It's like, ooh, love it.
Maybe we should be looking for a blend of all four elements in our king.
Right? A magician, if you will, someone who's working with all of them. And now I just shuffled, but the magician is the manifester, but also he's the alchemist to me in the deck because he's mastered all four elements. Yeah, baby, that's what we all want to do.
Right, exactly.
Wow, Amy, this has been so fun. I could talk tarot all day, but what I'd love to do now is, would you be open to pulling a few cards from your cherished deck? Because you have a deck that how would you say, where you're connected with, you're most familiar with, you're most drawn to? What is it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's a fairy deck. So I love working with that fairy energy. Obviously I have a lot of decks being a professional reader, but
this is the magician. That might be your next boyfriend. He's got it all. Okay.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just thinking for the collective, everyone listening, whenever you listen, it's not time specific, but just what message wants to come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we'll let Amy do her magic.
How many cards shall I pull?
Oh, that's up to you, girl.
Let's do maybe a 3 card.
Okay, let's go.
All right. All right. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm glad we get to talk also about a female archetype card. Queen of Winter. So the message on the Queen of Winter: let go of people or things that no longer serve you. Now is the time to focus on your career, unmarried or a divorced individual. Strong, patient, self-sufficient. So I feel like the Queen of Swords, she is definitely that, I don't know what the card. In this deck, they actually use the season. So it's Queen of Winter. So winter is swords, autumn is pentacles, summer is cups, and spring is wands. So I feel like her energy is very much that woman that doesn't need anyone. She can kind of handle all her own affairs. She's very strong. She's very independent. She knows her own mind. She has that clarity. She doesn't often need to really seek counsel from anyone. She's just very much in control of herself. She's like, to me, that acronym that has become really popular of witch, woman in total control of herself. I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah.
Can you say that again so make
Yes.
sure they hear?
So the acronym witch, woman in total control of herself. And it's become
Wonderful.
super popular in the last couple of years. And I have personally identified with it really, really strongly. And I feel like that's, to me, that Queen of Swords energy.
Totally.
You
That's
know?
my take on. I love the energy of Queen of Swords because, again, like we said, you want to embody all. So you don't always, I mean, for me, I don't always want to be in that energy, but when I'm in my state of, I know where I'm going, and if anybody has a problem, I will politely listen, but politely decline their opinion because I know where I have to go and I'm going to go there.
Yes.
And to me, that's her, where it's like, I know I can do this. I will do it. I am not going to take any objections because I'm not going to be, whereas like the Queen of Cups wants to hear people. She's very emotive. And if someone expresses a concern, she's going to want to attend to their feelings. But the Queen of Swords is that time in your life where you're like, I can't, I have to take advantage of this moment and make this happen.
Yes.
No bullshit. No objections are being heard right now. I'm going with this.
100%.
But it's, to me, she's not cocky. She's not like entitled. It's just like, sometimes you got to get shit done.
Yes.
And that's what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Just, very pragmatic, very practical, matter of fact. And like you said, the swords, they're very intelligent. So yeah.
Just found her in the traditional deck. Lovely.
Yeah, I agree with you though. She's not cocky about it, and she's not
nothing to prove.
No, nothing to prove. She's not egotistical.
She's just getting it done.
Yeah.
And I love that it kind of talks about you're in your single era where it's like, I'm doing me and I'm going to move towards my goals. And I'm not going to let distractions from pages get in my way.
Mantra.
Yeah.
So true. Okay. And we have the 10 of Swords.
Oh.
And the message on here, the resolution of difficulties, a weight lifted off of your shoulders, the end of an addiction or codependency.
The end of a tough cycle.
Right? So 10 of Swords to me, it's a heavy card.
Sorry. Oh.
And I feel like that, again, we said the 10, it's like that completion energy, right? So a lot of them, 10 of Cups, it's this really happy family. Again, it's tying in with matters of kind of love, relationships, family. 10 of Pentacles, it's a really good financial card. The 10 of Swords doesn't necessarily follow the other 10s so much. Like, it is a cycle that has completed and ended. There's some pain surrounding it. And the traditional depiction, it's a man lying face down with the swords in his back. So I always tell people it's an ending, but there's some pain involved with it. There's some kind of melancholy energy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will say this is one of those cards that people don't always like to see because it is a bit,
right.
I mean, he's not having a good time. He's not feeling great, but it's done.
It's done. It's done. And again, the swords, a lot of times, that 5 of Swords, that battle, that, you know what I mean? That fight, right? 7 of Swords. The swords are, in general, I feel like the suit of swords are heavy.
They're not light,
They're not
they're not fun.
None
but
of them
again,
are
it's like that Queen of Wands or Queen of Swords. It's like there's time where you just got to get shit done.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the swords. 10 of Swords, you're fucking done.
Yeah.
You're tired of it. Yeah, it hurts.
Right.
It hurts to get that 10 sword.
It hurts.
But at least it's over.
It has to end. Yes. I always tell people it's like inevitable. Yes, you're in pain over this ending, but it is inevitable. It's still a completion of a cycle.
Right.
And it's still that starting of a new.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one is an interesting.
It can be good because you're also hearing that the 9s, you've already gotten hit with 9 swords. They sucked. At least now, like, this is the last blow, and you're moving on. And now you get to move beyond what's been causing you. Because also, whenever I think of the Ten of Swords, it's been a similar sword. So it's something that you
Right.
keep repeating, a painful
Yeah.
occurrence.
Right.
And now,
Going back all the way to a Three of Swords,
the
it's, it's the
heartbreak.
heartbreak. It's three swords stabbed through a heart.
Right.
And it's heartbreak, disappointment, disillusionment, betrayal. So yeah, the swords are heavy all the way through. Again, I'm not going to say any card is positive or negative in the deck. I don't like to read that way, but the swords are definitely they're a journey.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
They could be challenging. So by the time you get to the 10, it's also that relief that the really hard thing is
Yeah.
completed as well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, there's the only really positive sword is the Ace of Swords, because it's like a conviction, clarity in your pursuit and what
Right.
you want to achieve. The Six of Swords isn't bad, the Two of Swords isn't bad, but they're
Right.
still not like
Right.
awesome.
Because the Six of Swords is that you're in a transition, you're in growth, but you're still typically leaving something behind that. So Three of Swords, yeah.
Yeah, the heart. Yeah.
So yeah, Six of Swords is an interesting one because it's like, okay, the five, the halfway point, you're over the hurdle, you've chosen to move on from the thing, but usually what you're moving on from is not pleasant. So I think
Yes.
Six of Swords has that forward momentum, but it's still you're moving on from something not great.
Yeah. Yeah, he's moving on. And
He's moving
I
on.
love that image of it's like this mother and their child. And it's to me, it's like they have their head down because they're like, okay, I know I'm safe now, but wow, I need to process what just happened. Right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then what's our
And
final card?
Three of Wands,
Ooh, there we go. Now we got some liveliness. We're coming back to life.
right? I know it's swords, enough swords right now.
Mm.
Plan your next steps with an eye to the long term. Have patience. There are more good things to come. Satisfaction from a job well done. So, again, the wands are that element of fire. They're that spark, that creation energy. I feel like, in particular, the Three of Wands always seems to me like the depiction is, again, eye on the prize, not only doing things that benefit you in the moment, but looking at the bigger picture, looking at the long term, and kind of being willing to
Mhm.
maybe sacrifice a little in the moment for your long-term goal. That's what
Yeah.
I get with Three of Wands energy a lot.
Yeah. Like you kind of have to get a little bit more focused and more intentional about exactly what you want to create. Because wands are about creation, right?
Right, exactly. So you have that spark, that idea, that seed.
Yeah. What's your take on the traditional one that I'm showing right now? Because I've heard a lot of different interpretations about why he's looking towards something. Like, what is he looking towards? He has his back towards us. How do you read the traditional one? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I feel like the fact that he's looking into the vastness to me always says a lot because a lot of the cards, the backgrounds are very busy. There's clouds and trees and animals and all these types of other objects going on.
Yeah.
Three of Wands, that always strikes me as the vastness, the possibility, that
Mm.
kind of blank canvas possibility. I feel like to me, that's very much like just an open slate, a lot of starting anew, a lot of ability to really forge your own path, not necessarily to do something that's done before or have to follow a family legacy. You're forging your own path. You're
Yeah.
not having to follow a customer tradition or societal views. To me, there's a lot of just open-endedness and a lot of the ability to, yeah, just live your own truth.
Beautiful. Well, Amy, thank you so much for the reading for everybody. That was
Absolutely.
beautiful. Love to see you sharing your talents live. Although I've seen lots of it, but now many more people get to. Wow. Well, this has been so much fun.
Thank
I would love to
you.
do more tarot talk. How would you guys feel about more tarot talk, tarot time with Amy and Whitney? We might have to make that happen. And Amy, if people who are listening, if they would like to find you, if they're interested in working with you, how
Yeah.
can they do so?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Visionary Tarot by Amy. Facebook is Visionary Tarot. Also on TikTok as well. And then I work full time for Pentagram Shop in Salem, Massachusetts, and part time for witchytip.com. So you can book me um, through either of those websites or find me also in person. It's busy season coming up in Salem. So definitely book ahead. Word to the wise, it's already filling up like super fast. So definitely pre-book if you want in person for sure. And my latest offering, I just started a new side business called Kitchen Witchery by Amy Faye. And that is on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well. And I'll be making custom, right now I have an elderberry tonic for the fall and winter, the cold and flu season. I craft everything with magical intention. So it's blessed with health and protection. Included with every jar, I'm including a bloodstone, which is a crystal that's really good for our immune system. So that's wonderful. Um, Jumping back for a second with crystals, on Witchy Tip, I'm offering a new service called Crystal Consultation, and that's something brand new that I'm offering for Witchy Tip. So that's on the menu bar as well, teaching you how to work with the crystals you may already have in your home and you don't know different uses, different ideas for them to incorporate them into your daily life. But to go back to the kitchen witchery, I'm also going to be crafting sun teas, moon waters, spell jars. So definitely check out that page, Kitchen Witchery by Amy Faye as well.
What beautiful, amazing offerings, Amy. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for
Thank
sharing your
you.
story and about your
Yeah,
gifts so
absolutely.
openly. I really appreciate it. And I look
Yeah.
forward to doing this again
Me
soon.
too, Whitney. Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
everybody.